Hey guys, this will be video 3 for the how to design build a custom Explorer replica. Um, Actually, sometimes using Stuart McDonald templates, but for the most part, this one's coming together fairly easily, so I'm not having to do that. But in addition to just general conversation, this video is going to be fairly technical. So I'm going to go ahead and knock out the stuff that would be of interest to the client first, and then we'll start talking about, how do you glue that neck in and maintain that perfect center line, maintain that perfect pitch roll and yaw and all that jazz, and not lose your cool, because this is probably one of the most difficult bodies to hold. Flying V is really difficult to work with because they're so odd. You can't really get a grip on them. But once you put that epoxy in there and you start gluing that neck in, you'll lose control really fast because you don't have any way to clamp or hold it in place. And the last thing you want to do is come back the next day and after it's all dry, and then the neck is off center line. So we'll talk about that stuff in extensive detail, and I'll show you how to use a C-clamp, strap clamps, and all that jazz. We're going to talk about epoxy versus tight bond, and we're going to talk about I'm going to actually do some lacquer work at the end of this video. It'll just be with a brush, but we are going to talk about the blue tint a little bit, or other tints. So this will probably be about an hour-long video, but and it should be a really informative video as well. But I want to go ahead and discuss this fretboard because I did get this in. I ordered this fretboard from it's a blank. It's a 1/4 inch thick, roughly. Well, let me just slow down. It's a 1/4 inch thick right now. It's 2.5 inches wide, and it's probably 20 inches long. It's 20 and 1/16 of an inch long. This came from a professional guitar builder and a luthier tone wood supplier out of New York. What does that tell you? It's it's perfect. Okay, it is master grade luthier type quality wood. So if you had a whole tree and they're roughing out that tree and they're determining what is of the luthier part of that tree, well then that's what this is. If you were to just go online and order some maple, you have no idea what the moisture content is. You have no idea whether it was truly kiln, KILN, dried, or not. And unless you've been buying from a supplier for a long time, I'm talking about like a weekend warrior guitar builder that's thinking about doing this, and you're excited and you're buying up parts and you're sharpening your tools and all that stuff. But even though I'm a pretty seasoned woodworker, uh, why did I go with this particular type of maple and this cut, et cetera, et cetera? Because when this client reached out to me the very first time, I mean, in the very first email he sent me, he specified an interest in having this guitar, but painted, well, he didn't tell me about the blue yet, but he specifically said in the very first email that he was interested in a quarter sawn, straight grain maple fretboard with shark fin mother of pearl, and he specified, the pretty white pearl, because he made a statement that'll really snap with the maple. Now, when you hear a client that is that focused on something they want, be careful. That's when you really keep your ego in check. Even though most of us have never built an Explorer type replica with a maple neck, keep your mouth shut whether you agree with that or not. Now if I really disagreed with it, or if the guy was thinking about building it for someone as a gift, or et cetera, et cetera, I might make some suggestions. But what I did, I set out on the very front end. I did go ahead and show him some other maples just to see if he really was interested in this particular cut, and in other words, clear quarter sawn rock maple. And he never mentioned anything about the other woods that I had shown pictures of. And when I didn't hear any response about that, that's when I got online and I found this particular piece of maple, and it was even he had even sent me pictures of a fretboard, probably two or three different fretboards that he'd seen. Every one of them were the straight grain maple, and they were that there was no figure, there was nothing funky going on. And so that's when I realized, well, that's exactly what I need to go ahead and order. But I didn't want to buy a whole, tree of maple and start roughing it out. So I just went online and I found this particular luthier, and this is a beautiful, beautiful piece of wood. Let's see if I can forget the tap time. I'll have to find it. Bear with me. Oh, hell, I should have done this before. Well, anyway, it's got an exceptional tap tone. It's real rich and a pure note. Typically, when you're looking for a tap tone, you're kind of holding somewhere in that point right there. You might be able to hear that, but when you hit that note, all of a sudden it starts going ding, 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 ringing like a bell, and that note is very specific. And I apologize, I didn't find that note. But this is luthier grade quarter sawn maple, clear grain, you name it, no knots, very, very rich flair. And as far as the actual fretboard itself, how much of this material will actually become a fretboard? Um, Not much of it will get dropped. What you see remaining, obviously, all of that will get cut off. All of that will get cut off, and that is the nut location. So anything either up there or possibly down here will get cut off. I have yet to determine. I'm pretty certain that this is going to be the fretboard. I'm gonna stop because I haven't determined it yet. I don't even know which one is going to be the top and which one's going to be the bottom, because right now it's just an S4S board. Okay, so when your client comes out of the gate with that crystal clear of information, you need to make certain that if you can deliver it, do. But if you can't, make sure that you communicate to them why. Because I had one client, this is very important. I had one potential client. No, he did buy a guitar for me, and he was thinking about building another guitar. And he sent me pictures of this really weird marbleized maple fretboard that he really loved. And I may have overstepped my boundaries, but I asked him, I said, "Are you aware of how weird that's going to look once it gets all of the frets in? In other words, if you start putting your mother of pearl in there, you're going to have difficulty locating your mother of pearl dots in this as compared to that or that." So sometimes a very vivid fretboard is not what you want, because especially if it has chatoyancy to it and it has a lot of depth. Because I did that on a fretboard once, and it was three-dimensional, and when I looked down at the fretboard as I was playing, I lost my depth perception when I was looking at it. I had to sell the guitar. I told the guy, I said, I hope you love that fretboard, because I can't play it. I can't see. It's like looking through a swimming pool or a diving goggles with that's full of water. So anyway, this is a black limba, a very beautiful figured piece, and that's a guitar that I'm building right now. But nonetheless, I got your maple in art. It's beautiful. It's positively stunning, and it should look pretty much identical to the pictures that you've been sending me. Because by the time I do the French polish work on it, with the tints, the amber tints in the lacquer and stuff like that, and that'll all be hand rubbed, a real low luster finish. It'll look like a vintage violin, but it'll be really beautiful. And then your white mother of pearl will just scream. It'll be really beautiful. But as I'm working with these tints and mixes, I'll do a video and show some that, hey, this is our option. We could go a little lighter, we could go a little darker, blah blah blah. I tend to stay on the moderate side. I don't like that roasted 800-year-old looking neck. That's so silly. But in all of the pictures that the client sent me, they were very moderate. There wasn't anything about it that was extreme dark, amber or anything like that. So you only use these trans tints sparingly and in order to achieve what would look natural. Okay, so we got her making it's perfectly straight. It's beautiful. It's got a phenomenal tap tone. What does that equate to? Once you have this maple on this, these things are so damn big. It's hard to hold without banging them into a wall. Once you have this maple on a Honduran mahogany neck, this is going to be master level tone. It's going to be off the charts. So it's going to have unbelievable growl, snap, pop, and then just because we all know Telly is probably in a Strat with a maple fretboard, it's one of the best jazz guitars you can ever have. It'll be incredible for chord work as well. So it's going to be a phenomenal sounding, playing, feeling guitar. Okay. Again, I'm still excited about this build. It's a very unique build. Very cool. All right. What else might the client want to know? Let's see what blue looks like. Make sure this thing is good. I have not popped the top on it, but I did shake it up a little bit, and I got a feeling. I've already done this sample. Is that in the camera? But we're about to find out just how blue can be out of these tints. And I'm not going to start talking about alternate colors at all, but you can shade with black, you can tint with white, and then you can tone by mixing black and white. Okay, so that would be, like a primer gray. That's all it is white with one drop of black in it, and it's excellent for gray priming. Obviously, this is just your black. Okay, but let's talk about blue. That's just. Is that in the camera? Let me just get in the camera. Okay, that's a beautiful color, but I'm gonna put a little bit of black in it. Not much. Don't let that scare you, Art. But I'm gonna have just a little bit more black in it because if you take that outside, it would look purple. So I'm going to tame it or shade it with the black in order to achieve the pictures that you sent me, as well as like if you go online and you look at a sapphire blue wedding ring, just look at the stone. That's kind of what I think we're both on the same page. A little straight out of this bottle, that could get you in trouble if you just started working with it in your shop, thinking, "Oh wow, this is beautiful," and then you then you do your first gig in California on a stage, and everybody's talking about your purple guitar. So anyway, all right, let me check this out. Which is there's not a bad thing, and it's funny when the client first reached out to me and after the second email he mentioned that when he mentioned something about the blue, I thought he meant that he wanted the fretboard stained blue, so that you could see the wood grain through it, and I was thinking, hell, this cat's crazy. This is so cool. Meaning in a good way. That's some crazy cool stuff. And I thought he meant like a white body with a mahogany neck, or maybe a white neck with a blue fretboard. And he's like, no, I'm talking about the whole guitar blue, but then the fretboard, natural. And that's like I breathed a sigh of relief because that's a little bit more manageable. But then, and it would actually look really good as well. But I got to thinking along the lines of like the Prince guitar. There's one guitar, I think it was his favorite one. It's called the Blue Angel. And it was the Prince Cloud that had been painted. I think it started out white, then it went tangerine, and then they painted it the pretty much sapphire blue. But the whole guitar is painted blue, even the fretboard. Now, I have never ever painted a fretboard, and I heard the maintenance crew for Prince's, like the tour guys, they were talking about it was a maintenance nightmare keeping that fretboard under control because it was continually wearing through, and they were having to repaint and stuff. So I wouldn't recommend that unless you were just wanting to build something really cool. and hang in a trophy case maybe, but I'm not the trophy case builder. I prefer to only build guitars for players who actually play them. So, but nonetheless, after it's all said and done, this thing will be really beautiful, as the all blue, neck, um, the all blue body, front, back, sides, you name it. Then with the maple fretboard, this has the violin finish, the French polished finish. And I had suggested, if we're going to go with all this blue, let's do the headstock face in black. I think that would look the most traditional. And also, it would be a really classy complement to the original design. Even though we're doing all this real cool, wild, custom stuff, I think the blackface would be really, really tasteful. Now, he did mention, well, what about if the whole thing was blue, even the face? So I was like, hey, it's your guitar, man. So what I'm going to do, obviously, I'm going to go ahead and be painting the body and the neck lower and the headstock. I'm going to paint the whole thing, sapphire blue, and then see what it looks like. But then take some black construction paper and cut it out in, you know, cut it out, and then we'll just lay the black up there and see what it looks like against the blue versus drop the black off and then look what it looks like in whole blue. The reason I'm saying that is because this fretboard, it's going to be another week and a half to 2 weeks possibly until I get the actual mother of pearl in. So rather than just sitting here and staring at the wall or building another guitar, I've got a ton of work that I can do while I'm waiting on the mother of pearl to come in. And then a couple of weeks from now, that's when I'll be in high gear mode, doing all this pearl work, the scale layout, the cutting, because this job's a little bit different. And I think this is still kind of for the client. Typically, you can, okay, if you were just going to do dot inlays, you could go ahead and cut every bit of your scale. I always cut the nut, the 5th, the 12th, and the 23rd. And you might think, well, what? There's not a 23rd fret. That the 23rd represents the end of the fretboard. But if I was getting ready to finish this fretboard here for this job, I would go ahead and cut every one of the fret slots per the scale, finished all the way through to the correct depth, and then I would drill for all of the dots, which they're round, the 3, 5, 7, 9, 12, 15, 17, and 19, and there's 2 at the 12th location, and then it would still be flat, and then I would sand that level. Then I would put it on my router station over there, and I would radius it, and I would allow the radius bit. And we're going to talk about this stuff in the future in extensive detail as I'm actually doing it. But I would go ahead and cut that radius and then shape it and blah blah, and then glue it down, and then hammer the frets in while it's on the neck and body husk. This job is different because the mother of pearl shark fin inlays are so large and they're so close to the frets. If you listen to anything, please hear me out. This is so important. Do not cut your fret slots first before you install shark fin inlays, because your shark fin inlays will be getting so close to the frets that you're almost guaranteed that when you're doing that route work, it'll tear out that little bridge of wood that is remaining. I hope that makes sense. But and I don't have a fret here to show you. I mean, I don't have a mother of pearl to show you, but that mother of pearl comes so close to the actual fret in every location that you just about have to do all of the mother of pearl machine work first, level it, then cut all your fret slots. Okay, that's backwards from how I typically do it. And even if I'm doing like a trapezoid inlay, especially once you get up here in the higher register where the frets are really close, and the trapezoid, well, this is a perfect example when the frets are really close, because see, there would be another fret right here, and then you're trying to put a trapezoid inlay in that. you better be good at repair work, because it's not if, but it's when one little piece is going to chip out in there, because after you've done your route work, the machine work to receive the mother of pearl. So I say that to say this: the shark fin, the shark fin inlay is going to be probably, this is going to be one of the most complex mother of pearl jobs I've ever done. So, but I'm not afraid of it. I know exactly how to approach it. It's just the order of operations are critical, critical when you're doing that type of work. So proceed with caution, and just because you think you know how to do something, um, make certain that you approach it in that fashion. You should be fine. Check the time. 20 minutes of that's a lot of information, but I'm not going to pause or stop this video, and I'm not gonna redo it. So what else might the client want to know? Talked about blue a little bit. Talked about maple. I was really continually, even from the very beginning of discussing doing this job for this client, I was thinking about how to approach that and how to explain it to the client that even though we start this job, it's going to suddenly come to a close. I mean, there's gonna be a delay to get to the fretboard. And he was really cool on the front end. He was like, "Yeah, I understand. I'm okay waiting for the parts to come in and the time." And most people truly understand that. Hey, when you're building something like this, it's weeks to finish the job. But that doesn't mean that we can't shape the neck, glue the neck in, paint the body, lay all that jazz out, sample black, headstock face covers, and do some videos in between. Okay, so let's do just that. Let's talk about how you would go about uh, gluing gluing the neck in. And if you didn't hear me, gluing the neck in. So let me get everything off the table that does not need to be on the table, so I don't knock stuff over. Show that this is going to be an absolutely beautiful project. I'm going to show this briefly. This won't take just a second. And I'm actually, you know what? I'm not. I got to bridle myself, but I got the body finished, and this thing is insane. But this will give you an idea of the operations. Everything's very square, and I'm gonna spend about another 30 seconds with this. This is very important. That's why I had it on the table, and it ties into net construction and order of operations and all that jazz. Okay, in the last video, a guy responded, and I guess your name is Simon. Simon, I appreciate you commenting, because you've always commented on a lot of videos, and it's weird. A lot of times I've tried to respond, and I always lose your messages for some reason. But nonetheless, I did get to respond to him, and he said, "Wow, that's really interesting. I've never finished my a neck like that before having the fretboard already glued down." There's absolutely nothing wrong with going ahead and doing your fretboard like this, gluing all the fretboard down. If you wanted to go ahead and put the frets in and then do all your shaping. I was roughing out some maple once, and I had this perfectly stunning piece of maple. And when I started roughing everything out for the jazz profile neck, where you cut everything out of a board like this, then you stand it up and you glue two or three pieces together. Well, when I was roughing it out, two of them stayed perfectly straight, and one of them twisted like a you know what. And it spooked me so bad, I realized, whoa, just because it's maple doesn't mean that it's trustworthy. So after that, I got thinking, I thought, there's no way I can build a multi-$1,000 guitar, ship it to some strange location in the world, and then 6 months later, that baby starts warping. So it was an insurance policy for me to go ahead and set up this jig system and pretty much completely finish the neck lower. And if it stays perfectly true and straight, like this in the shop, laying over in the corner, then once you glue this fretboard down, it's never going to move. I mean, I could just about guarantee that. I mean, I really think you could. I think you could guarantee that neck pretty much for life. It's never going to move, because if it hasn't moved, put it this way, when you've got a large block of wood and you start machining it, let's say you started out with this board and it was 4 inches this way, 3 inches this way, and whatever, and you start machining this out, if there's an issue with the way the tree always wanted to twist, warp, cup, or bow, it's going to materialize almost within just minutes. And what's weird, sometimes it will revert back a little bit. But if you're roughing out material, and you woodworkers already know this, if it moves just a little, don't that's no reason to discard it. But just keep an eye on it and monitor it, because sometimes it's weird, it will revert back, and that's a spooky thing to me, because I don't like the idea. Well, if it'll warp or twist and then revert, who's to say it's not going to eventually twist or warp again? So building them this way guarantees that I've got a neck that will never move, and I know that it's going to always stay stable. So it's a lot more work doing it this way, but you got to do that work anyway eventually. So why not go ahead and do it on the front end? Okay. So let's get that off the table. Okay, 26 minutes. Man, the time is just rocketing by. But again, these videos are not for entertainment, as I say, unless you're just a real geek and you're into this stuff. You might find it entertaining, but I see that again. That's really, really beautiful. And also, think little things like that. Leave that over on the side of the table. You'd be surprised how little things like that will motivate you to get back in the saddle and get your job finished, because that is definitely a part of building a guitar. I think a lot of guys would get excited on the front end to do the job, and then they might get a little bit overwhelmed and it gets shelved and they don't finish it, or it never gets finished. So got a neck glued in, and let's see if I can do some tap tone work just with my finger. This thing is unbelievably vocal. Well, every one of them that I've ever built are vocal. And would it sound that good if it were glued in with the tight bond? Probably so, because that was such an exceptional join that I had going on. And these things are so big. Tell you what, let me slow down. Let me do a flyby. Let me get this off the table over here so I got a little more room. I'll do a flyby first, and then I'll talk about the joinery. Beautiful, beautiful guitar. It's just a beautiful design. It's so big I can't really get it in the camera though, unfortunately, because I have the camera pointed down to the table so it shows the work. But let's see if I can turn it this way and not knock the camera off its stand. It's the first time I've done the extended long tenon in a Explorer body, and I personally don't think it makes any difference at all, but I was curious to see it. But plus, this board was really long. I actually cut off about an inch, probably 3/4 of an inch. I could have taken it back even further if I wanted to, but I'm going to talk about this briefly. Be careful about doing this long tenon crap, because if you've got a body, just like I was talking about, the wood has a potential to warp. If you've got a body of wood that's like a solid piece of wood, you route out here, you route out there, you route out over here, then maybe you come down here, do all this route work, or you do all this route work back here for the cavity. Just because it's a large billet of wood doesn't mean that it won't warp. And I bought a guitar body once that was the guy couldn't work with it. Somebody had done so much machine work that it had cupped down, so it was, it was radiused. The whole top of the body was radiused, and I thought, man, some idiot came in and tried to do like an arch top body, but you can't. I came on the back, and it was actually cupped. It was concaved on the back, convexed. Is that right? Yeah, convexed on the top because all that machine work, that body had moved. So be careful about doing too much machine work here. Your body will warp open. Okay. But the mahogany is real stable. It's not going to happen. So this is a long tenon epoxied in and perfectly centered. And what was awesome is when I put I already had engineered it and machined it and knew that because the tenon pocket was or the mortise was so true that I wasn't worried about even checking this one. I just epoxied it in and did the clamp work and then the strap work. And that's exactly what I'm about to talk about. And then we'll end this video so that you'll actually see it mocked up what it looked like as I was doing the gluing work. So check the time again, 31 minutes. If you were going to do this with Titebond, you won't need any of this stuff, but you'll need to have some means by which to hold this body because you're basically going to be pushing this neck in by hand, and the only thing you will have will be a clamp. Let me set it up, and then I'll talk about the two different approaches. All right, I've got a little piece of plywood here with some guitar case material that's like faux leather. And you want to be thinking about where it is you want your clamp to go in, because see, this machine work had not been done here, so I had a solid surface. I could have allowed the clamp to come up here or stay down here. I always clamp pretty much right in the middle, so that's where I want my little medallion. Okay, so that assures me that when I reach in, and I'll put the clamp up here, and you might be thinking, wow, why would you use a C-clamp? You're going to crush the thing. You never put any major force on this. And also be real careful about something like that. If that drops, that'll put a nasty dent. So you definitely have to have it raised. Something like that. And now, obviously, the neck is not glued in, but once you're getting ready to do this, you can use the this is going to make sense in a second. You can use this like a micrometer. Is that the word? Yeah, where you're actually, it is a clamp, but you're just doing real gentle clamp work and you're squeezing out the excess epoxy. And there better not be a lot of squeeze out. Just make certain that you just barely coat all sides. And I think there's 7 sides when it comes down to it that you've got to epoxy coat. Let's see, one side here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you have 7 sides that you are epoxy or Titebond gluing into this body. So you can't be fighting all 7 of those points. You have already machined that so that once this goes in, you could just about do it blindfolded. But if you get this clamp too far forward, I guarantee you when you start squeezing down or start putting tension on it, it's going to squeeze the epoxy back this way into a cavity, and it'll be such that it can't squeeze out of the body. So a lot of times, usually every time, I start out first down here on the quarter before I do any strapping, and I just put the clamp on it and I get a little bit snug, and I kind of squeeze that epoxy that's here in that direction. Then I'll actually take the neck and kind of, make certain that it's in properly. And the cool thing about the 24-hour epoxy, I've literally got about 35 minutes work time before it starts getting a little bit thick like peanut butter. So the tight bond, you don't even hardly have time to do the clamp works. You push it in, slide it once or twice, and then you better have it in place with the clamp fairly close, because it's going to tack very quickly. And you'll either lose control, or either it'll be the fastest glue job you've ever done. But I just like the epoxy, because then after you do that initial squeeze out, then come in here and do this right here. And with the C-clamp, you're able to push it off to the side, so that if you need to slide your straight edge, I hope that's in the camera, best I can do. You want to slide, if you want to slide your straight edge up here and verify that you're staying on your pencil marks that you made on the base side, on the treble side, things like that, you got that access right there. You only need the one C-clamp. Now, so let me take this off for a second. I'm going to show you what I should have shown you before I got into that in-depth conversation, because you're still, the medallion is the first little thing you want to set up. But if you're getting ready to strap, okay, so the C-clamp will guarantee that you get the pitch under control, because if you get that glue squeezed on either fashion, it's going to change the pitch, and you'll have a pocket in there where the tight bond, if you get a pocket of tight bond in there, it's almost the equivalent of you putting it back in the bottle. It'll stay rubbery really bad, and it will almost never dry properly, and it'll end up being a rubber gasket, and you'll lose an enormous amount of your tone. All the more reason I like using the epoxy, because even if you had a void in there, it would eventually dry rock hard. But what we're going to want to do, we're going to want to have a strap right here. And I know you're looking at going, good God, you could break that thing in half if you torqued it too much. Well, just know not to torque it too much. All you're doing is guaranteeing with the C-clamp that you're holding it down into the mortise properly. And with the strap that's going to go all the way, I'm going to mark this up in a minute. The strap's going to go all the way up over the headstock, around the back of the body, and then you'll be able to do, one or two torques. And obviously you'll have a small board under your, wherever you put this. I typically have this up on the neck lower. Therefore, I'm not worried damaging anything. But even if I put a nasty little dent in this body, it's no big deal, because I could be able to repair it and patch it and paint it and all that jazz. And then you'll just torque it up and go from there. So you're thinking, well, man, how do you keep it from sliding off here? And especially, how do you keep it from sliding off up here? Because there's nothing square. It's an Explorer, it's almost like an airplane. So the way you do that is like this right here. Where your central line is. Oh, hell. Specifically cut this little piece, and it's kind of got a little bit of curvature to it. Roughly stand in the middle. And I so hate that I never got the guy's information, but I learned this from another guitar builder on YouTube years ago. I got that tape a little bit low, but I'm only going to do a temporary. Okay, doesn't take much. Don't slide it around because you'll lose the strength. Just put it up there, maybe slide it just once, and then put it back in position. Whoops, slipped on. Hold it for a brief moment in time, and I call this jet glue. You can get this at Hobby Lobby, $5.99 for 1 ounce. That is an unbelievable deal. That's the medium. There's your thin. And I don't use the thick anymore because the medium is perfect. I don't have the need for that. But the thin is excellent for just, deep penetration. So I think you get the gist as to what it is I'm doing here. So and that will allow and again, we're not putting massive stress on this strap. So we don't need an enormous amount of this is going to be hard to keep this in the camera, but basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to be coming up here and I'm going to be putting a block on the back and a little block on the front that's perfectly in the center. Okay, I'll be doing the exact same thing like that. Now you probably could come in here with a quick grip and just do a pretty hard clamp on it, but then your clamp would be in the way of the strap. So let's just do it exactly how I did it. Okay. Okay, I got a little bit more than I should have, so I'm going to let that drain down so it doesn't risk getting on the headstock. It doesn't really matter unless it's a, well, yeah, it does matter too. If it matters if it's a, let me just do this first. It matters if it is an unfinished, if it's a clear coat headstock. Okay, I'm just the same thing, lining up. Just creating that flat. So. Okay. Okay. Hold pressure on it. And you're not finished yet. Right now you're letting it tack. You're guaranteeing that it's tacking really well. But let's go one step further. It's probably going to be one of the most valuable tools in the shop, the Irwin Quick Grips. Okay, I didn't clamp that. I didn't put any force on that yet. I want to get them both up there first. Let's see if I can reach across that. Okay, I just did palm pressure. Now put some pretty serious pressure on it. That guarantees that that little dot of I call it jet glue, CA glue, really flares out and glues in place. And it only needs a few seconds. Very important to keep your strap flat with everything that you're doing. You probably could get away with one twist, but why would you want to have any twist? Let me push this off. Try to keep as much of this on camera as possible without, screwing up. I don't want to drop the guitar. Now, all of this is, you've got to have all this set up before you, I don't mean installed in place, but just have all of this, this strap, this crazy strap mechanism, and then look at which way it's going to go. Okay, for those of you that have never seen a strap like this, it feeds in from the bottom like that. Then you pull it through. Now you see what I'm talking about, keeping it on the exact same flat, because the bulk of that strap's just going to get thrown off the table. I'm just going to put it on the body, but I'll put a little board down there and say, this is probably one of the most important things. Fold that hook back, slide it down. Now you're able to hook in here. And what does that guarantee? That the strap down there stays on the perfect plane with this one. Oh, and I forgot, a lot of times I'll even do this right here. I'll tape that to that so it doesn't flop around. I'm giving all my trade secrets away. After I get it cranked in a little bit, I'll show you what I got. Okay, it happens fast now. Let me get it where I want. This is critically important that you get that strap perfectly down the center line of the body, because when you do torque into it, it's a very gentle torque, but that epoxy does not tack like a tight bond would tack. So you've got to make certain. Okay, now let me make certain I clarify something here. Before this strap even went on, you had already put this clamp on, and this is very, very critical. It's very important that this clamp is obviously perfectly centered. I'm not going to be able to put it where I would have it because it's already been machined for the neck pickup, but I'm going to get this thing mocked up so you can see what it looks like when you're actually getting ready to do that one click or maybe two clicks to guarantee that the neck gets pulled in and bedded perfectly right here on the back and then on the opposite side. Okay. All right, so what does it look like? You're able to, there's nothing wrong with that strap turning up right there. What's most important between these two is that the clamp is perfectly in the center. And you can't clamp down to that, because then it won't pull properly. You want that to pull independently from that. Okay, now if you put enough tension on this, you'll break the neck. So don't put that much tension. This is one of those things you just have to, if you don't understand that, then you don't have any business, building a guitar. Obviously, not being a but I'll show you about the tension that you want. It's not enough. But at this point, what would be happening right now, it would be squeezing out epoxy right here. Well, it'd be squeezing out epoxy everywhere, a little bit. You want that. And then you'd be cleaning it up with your knives and all that jazz. And then, one more click until you hear just a little bit of a tone. And that's enough. And then what will happen, come back in about, don't leave it. You need to be watching it and monitoring it. And like I said, with this clamp turned like this, and if you had a small enough board, or the board put where it should be, you're still able to come in with straight edges and monitor the relationship of this line all the way down to a certain point off the center line of the body. And then you're monitoring this line from the nut all the way down to the other side, and then you're guaranteeing that you're staying on center. Okay? So it can be done with very, very basic tools. I do not use quick grips right here in that location, because quick grips have a tendency to, if you started clamping, sometimes they have a tendency to pull, like the grip itself will pull, and you might think you're clamping it, but you might be pulling it out of the body. So, and when you put this first clamp on, all it is just finger tight, and then this clamp right here will allow it to pull in place. Tighten a little, click a little, tighten a little, and just monitor. And this is what I was talking about. I'm gonna go ahead and break it down. Let me just get it off now. Take it apart in a second. And then you can see, now I probably wouldn't dare do this with a vintage guitar, because old lacquer on a vintage instrument is very, very fragile. So just don't do this with just anything. And as you can see, this is obviously still in a state of being built. All the more reason, like if you were painting this body pre-finished, don't take it up 100% before you finish the guitar, because odds are you're gonna be doing some major repair, so much so that you'll have to repaint the entire body. So never take anything up to 100% until you know you're through doing that kind of crap right there. I forgot what I was going to talk about, but I think it was just something related to, well, I forgot. I already drove home the importance of keeping everything clear so that you can monitor what it is you're doing. And I'm so glad I thought of it because I actually looked at it and said, this is exactly what I was talking about. Once you sand, let me get a block. Tell you what, I'm going to show it with a file because I did not even do this with a Lord's file. Okay, crosscut file. After it was finished, the first thing I did was come in, carry the transition of that flat right there up into the body. That's what I was talking about. You know, it took a little bit of that poplar body off right there, and it took a little bit off of this side as well. Okay, what does that tell you? It tells you that I've got my neck rolled about just very, very minimal. Okay. And there you have it. That's what it takes to build a guitar. And this doesn't have to apply to just an Explorer. Let me check the time. 56 minutes and 10 seconds. Well, while the camera's rolling, I'll go ahead and talk about it. I usually go ahead and locate where the 23rd fret is going to be, or the end of the fretboard, and it basically would be that point right there. If that's where the fretboard is going to end, well, then let's go ahead and notch this mahogany, or whatever the neck material is, down flush with the body. And I don't have a pickup ring out, so that your pickup ring will I do have it open. Yeah, this is going to be a great video. A lot of information. So that your pickup ring will not be bumping into something, and after you've got this beautiful finished guitar, you're not in there with a chisel trying to figure out how to get that little hump out. Go ahead and machine that crap out to start with, so that once this pickup ring goes in place, it's got a flat spot. Whether it moves forward a little bit or it moves back, it doesn't matter, because the fretboard is going to be positioned, cantilevering off just a little, not much, and it may be flush. But go ahead and do that type stuff on the front end. Ton of information, and I hope it was understandable, but not, redundant. And I hope that, that shield fell. I hope that it'll help you understand that don't get your glue in there prematurely. Well, that's kind of a given. I know what I was going to say. Do the job 100% finished, but dry. And then see your order of operations of like, oh, well, no, if I put that strap on there first, well, now start strapping on it, well, it's just going to pull the neck out of the body. But if I put that C-clamp on first, but I don't torque it too much, then I should be good to then follow up with the strap. In other words, get your order of operations under control. And then, what's the old saying? Plan your work your plan. I'll put that up for a little bit of motivation and try to stop talking, because this is ending up being a really long video. Okay, so I hope that helped you guys out if you're getting ready to build a guitar. Can't think what else to talk about. That was an enormous amount of information, but it's some really valuable information to process through how you would pull that off and not lose your cool. Because if you didn't plan those order of operations, and hell, if anything, have a notepad to the side that says first do this, second do this, third do this, then mix up the epoxy or get your tight bond out. Because if you're doing this with tight bond, everything's got to work just really, really fast. It'll take if you did all those operations while you're doing that with tight bond, it's probably going to need to be finished within about 3 minutes. You got to finish every bit of that within 3 minutes. So, just makes perfect sense. So I appreciate you guys dropping in. Hope you have a good Sunday. And the next time you see this thing, it'll start receiving some primers and colors and stuff like that. It'll still be another week or two before, week and a half to 2 weeks tops before I'm doing the fretboard work or any of that jazz. So there's no reason to continue talking about that. I'm just going to try to make certain that this video series doesn't hit a wall and then there's a 2 week lull where nothing takes place. So anyway, hopefully it'll be interesting and you'll learn how to build a guitar. So let me know if you have any questions or comments and I'll do what I can to help out. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.